Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath. And that's it. Kaustubha is on break today, he's on a mission. He's working on his book. And I'm supposed to be hosting Malati today. She's not here. And this is turning into an interview with Raghunath about Vrindavan.
Great.
Mara.
It'll be great. We're going to India tomorrow. What better way to prepare than some Vrindavan stories?
We got a little posse that's going with me to Nepal that is showing up in Vrindavan for 4 days. And we're going straight to Govardhan Hill. And any announcements before we go, Mara?
Yeah, we do have some announcements. Bhakti recovery group meeting today at 9:30 a.m. And then there's a satsang with Katie Bell at 10:30 a.m. for our Patreon members. And then this week, I think on March 10th, we're starting a pranayam with Alexander Moga for Patreon members. That'll be available. I think it's going to be every day at 9 a.m., 9 to 9:20. If you want to start your day with some breath work. Yeah. And then also we should say that there's not going to be a show Monday or Tuesday because of our travel.
Tomorrow and Tuesday, what are we supposed to do with our life? You know, we could start this off. Ariel Castillo asked a question, how important is to pray to be allowed in and allowed back? I think that's a really poignant thing because we're not, when we go to Vrindavan and the Holy Dham, we have to go with the right consciousness. And that's why there's always the dham guru or someone who introduces you to the appropriate way to behave, to think, to act, what to do when you go to these holy places. Or else the holy place, it's almost like it's there, but you're not experiencing it. In the same way a lotus flower, some of these lotuses that bloom, or any flower, sometimes they close up at night. And then in the morning, then they open again. So Vrindavan has that potency where you can go there and not get the experience, which we are all going there in the first place to get. We want an experience, but we don't sort of barge in. We can't just, there's a saying, you can't buy a ticket to Vrindavan. You have to be allowed by Srimati Radharani, allowed entrance. And so if you go there with the mood of a pilgrim, not what do I want to get out of this? Right now we're dealing with, Rachel, and Rachel's got a lot of stuff, according to her service force, she's helping me with my, with the farm, and she's helping Wisdom of the Sages a lot. And it's like sort of a full-time thing, but we sort of also felt like it'd be great if she just goes to Vrindavan and she stay with some nice senior devotees. And so she's having such a great experience, but it's because her mood is like in the appropriate consciousness, which is she's always asking, is it okay if I do this? She always wants to get blessings before she moves forward with a choice. It's not like we're just sightseers. Okay, I'm in Paris. Where's the Eiffel Tower? Where's the Louvre? Where's the the Mona Lisa? We're not just trying to see what I can enjoy and put in my senses. It's a different mood. So what can I give? How can I serve here? And then slowly with the appropriate consciousness, it's almost like if you've ever surfed. Mara, have you ever surfed?
No.
No, you never surfed. You've done so
No.
much. You catch that little wave and it sort of lifts you a little and it starts to propel you. And if you continue to ride the wave, and the wave could get bigger because there could be a swell, and that same wave could lift you, and the wave could also barrel over your head. And as long as you have that right mood, the ride becomes more and more ecstatic. It catches you and draws you either left or right down that wave. But it's when you go against that wave is when you start to eat it. That's where wipeout happens. What is wiping out in spiritual life? It's when my ego, which I carry around with me at all times, and I've been using to get what I want, including the validation I want, including the some type of kickback I get from my ego, and people give me some appreciation. If I use that in the holy dham, and remember, we get that word dham, where we get the English word domicile. It's Krishna's home. When we use that ego there, there's no space for it, because Krishna's the enjoyer, not me. In my material illusion, I'm the enjoyer. Everything revolves around on me. All my friends are those who stroke my egos. My enemies don't stroke my ego, right? And so in Bhakti, we want to get this place where we have that mood. And then when we take that mood into a holy place, magic starts to happen. The lotus starts to blossom. It becomes beautiful, fragrant, and sweet.
That's beautiful.
Otherwise, we wipe out. And I've been there myself, and I've seen it in other people. They wipe out in the holy dham. They can't do it. It just sort of cracks them.
On a related note, can you talk about why do they say that you're only supposed to go to Vrindavan for 3 days?
3 days or 3 years.
Yeah.
They say. Again, it's one of these things. We have a material consciousness we're dealing with. We're immersed in material world. And therefore, there's that saying, familiarity breeds contempt. And so when you go to the holy dham and you're excited, oh, I heard about this place. I've read the Krishna book. I've read the 10th canto, the Bhagavatam. I'm excited to go here. And then all of a sudden, after a few days, you can bring back your material consciousness and you can start to judge those in the dham, judge the residents of the dham, bring in criticisms. I mean, if we're criticizing at home, don't think you won't bring that same critical mind to a holy place. And I always use that analogy. It's like, it's one thing if you and me are playing poker for pennies and I lose big and I lost $1. It's another thing if you're in Vegas and you lose big, you lose tens of thousands of dollars. So when we go to a holy place, we're dealing with big chips. If I make offenses, if I criticize, if I don't have the appropriate consciousness, there's offenses of the holy dham. And what that can do is it can, for lifetimes, ruin my appreciation for that sacred place. For lifetimes. It could sort of keep me on the outside for lifetimes. So yeah, there is what was your question again? Before
about how you're only supposed to go for 3 days.
Yeah. So if for 3 days, we don't want to bring that familiarity in and just sort of barge around with my material consciousness, my material cleverness, my material know-how. We want to go there in a humble mood. I mean, I've been going for 30 years and still, and I have a lot of things I want to do, but still I'll approach Guru and say, what do you think I should do while I'm here? How can I be of best service? And even when I take the students, I don't just go and then we're going to do this. I'm going to go here. I always consult, my initiating guru's there and he'll give me some good instructions. He has a good taste for the holy dham. And I want to get those blessings. And you see, even we hear the stories of our great masters, the same way. They came to the holy dham. How can I serve? Radha Swami, when he first came to Vrindavan, he's thinking, how can I serve? So this is the sort of the mood that we follow. We're not sightseers. And then if you do have some service to do there, then you can stay longer. But we have to be there can't be downtime. That's what I really sort of realized. There can't be downtime for the mind, because the mind tends to just go to dark places when there's downtime. So we want to be fully engaged, and then we want to be spit out almost like we're, okay, back on the plane, get out of here. And then we're just sort of like, we were so absorbed in bhakti for 24/7 for a few days. And now I'm headed home. What just happened to me? And it juxtaposes us against my material existence. And I realize something just happened and I don't even get it yet. And it's like a magical feeling. That's how we usually do our pilgrimage. We go there for 3 days and then we get out, you know, we take everybody there for a few days. And you know how I run things, Mara. There, you know, Vivi's here, Narayani's here, Lori Pag's here, people that go to Vrindavan with me. It's like, there is no downtime whatsoever.
Yeah.
You're almost like, what are you trying to do to these people? I know exactly what I'm doing to them. I'm giving them no downtime for their mind to be in Maya, you know, to go to find the internet, to find a good internet connection, to, you know, to just ramble on the phone. We're only here for a few days. Let's make the most of it.
That's great. Ann Watson asked a good question. She says, just to step like way back to the basics for those who are new to Bhakti and listening, can you explain why Vrindavan is considered a holy, sacred place? Like what makes Vrindavan sacred?
Sure. Well, I'm going to have to tell a little story, Ann Watson. Is that okay? There's a story that the earth was in a very, very tough situation at one point, historically, about 5,000 years ago. So the earth is a being, believe it or not. The earth is a living being. And the earth took the form of a cow and approached all the demigods and said, hey, you've got to help me. The kings on the planet right now are so adharmic. They go against all dharma, and they're causing me so much pain. I think a lot of us can relate to that right now. And so all the demigods said, well, we want to help you, but let's talk to Lord Brahma. He's our chief. So Bhumi, the goddess of the earth, as well as all the demigods, they went to Lord Brahma. Brahma said, okay, the earth is in trouble. Let's go to Lord Vishnu. And they went to Lord Vishnu, and Vishnu said, listen, the best way to help you is if you have Lord Krishna descend on this planet. And so what they did was they all went through the whole outside of the universe, right? Outside of the universe. And there they saw bobbing on the Karna Ocean thousands of other universes, and they didn't quite understand what was going on. They thought their universe was the all in all. And they went to, and they saw this glowing light, and there was Ananta Shesh. And on the top of Ananta Shesh is those hooded Nagas. And on top of Ananta Shesh was this bright, beautiful realm of the spiritual land of Krishna. And there were these two very beautiful maidens, and they were the gatekeepers. And they said, what are you doing here? And they said, we're here to see Lord Krishna, for Krishna to descend. And they said, you were here to see Lord Krishna. Who can I say is calling? They say, well, we're the demigods of the universe. And they said, what universe are you in? Was that like a trick question? What do you mean, what universe? There's just one universe. And then she points and she looks around. You see all these bubbles bobbling? Each one of them is filled with demigods of Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma, and Chandra and Surya. They're all different in all these universes. You know, it's great to hear stories like this. It makes me minimize or see in perspective all my big problems, right? Even the demigods are very tiny. And this is the beautiful thing about spiritual traditions also. They minimize our problems by making me see my whole life in perspective of the big zoom out. It's necessary to have a big zoom out occasionally to help me get out of my head. So finally, they had darshan, and they decided Krishna would descend. And when Krishna descends, he doesn't want to come alone. Of course, he wants to bring his beloved goddess, Srimati Radharani. And Radharani says, you know, I'm not going to go unless three things come with me. And Krishna's like, okay, what do you want to bring? I want to bring Govardhan Hill, the Yamuna River, and Vrindavan Dham. If they come, then I will come. So Krishna made all arrangements, and he also spoke to the demigods. Listen, I want you to appear in the Yadu dynasty. Take birth there. And so when Krishna came, he brought all these demigods. He brought little pieces, like sort of like we say they're embassies of the spiritual realm, just like we were saying yesterday. When you go to Saudi Arabia, there's an American embassy. I think there is. And in that American embassy, all the rules of the United States apply. And so Krishna, he brought like an embassy of Vrindavan to this planet, as well as represent the Yamuna River manifests in the Himalayas. And that's a whole nother story about the descent of the Yamuna River and how the Yamuna River comes. And then also Govardhan Hill. And so all these places is where Krishna's abode on earth is manifest. Now, sometimes people are hearing this and they're new to this. They're like, well, that's just these interesting cultural stories. Take it like that. Take it like that. That's just, if that's what you need to hear today, that's okay. You can say, and sometimes I even have to zoom out. What do I know? Do I know this is a sacred river, a sacred hill? Take it as this is a holy place where holy people come. I like to sort of occasionally zoom out just to keep my perspective. Wait a second. Am I drinking too much of the Kool-Aid real quick? I think it's okay to do that, because if you take in too much and just accept everything, you sometimes throw away a necessity of having a critical mind. And I think it's good to bring a critical mind with you on your spiritual path. Question things, ponder it. And I've been in this game for a long time. I still have a critical mind, but there's always reasons I find there's more on the other side to keep me moving forward. You got to be careful that your critical mind just isn't a critic. And you got to be careful that blind faith, of course, we have to be careful of blind faith, right? But we also have to be careful of just blind doubt, to just be like, that can't be true. How can that be true? This is a bunch of baloney. This is just, how do you know? That blind faith and that blind doubt are two sides of the same coin. It's both based on ego. I'm not saying blindly believe everything. You're not going to make any advancement in spiritual life, and people will come around and challenge you, and you won't be able to defend your position. So you need the critical mind. But if you just always exist in a world of doubt, you won't even go out the front door. What if a boulder drops on my head today? What if it's below zero out there and I'll freeze? What if my car breaks down? I could die. It's dangerous outside. We can't live with this blind doubt. We'll be paralyzed. That sometimes people can't start a business, get married. They're stuck in this analysis paralysis where they can't go anywhere. So blind doubt, no. Blind faith, no. Critical thinking, moving forward with humility, yeah. So so I go into this like, this is a holy place. I'm accepting because my teachers go there. My teachers have gone there. Lord Chaitanya went there for thousands. Dhruva Maharaj went to Braj, right? We just read that yesterday in the Bhagavatam. If you're going to doubt, you're going to have to dig apart your whole life. Well, is the Bhagavatam real? You have to really go back. And the thing is, you need to write down sometimes what you believe to be true. Even if it goes back to this point where the Bhagavatam is a book of wisdom. How do I know this? Well, here's some verses that really mean a lot to me. Write them down. If you're one of these people, and put it on the board, I'd be curious how many people. I was still a real doubter, but at the same time, I didn't want to get paralyzed, and I knew that this spiritual path had a lot to offer as well. So there is reasonable faith to move forward, and so Vrindavan is this holy place, and there's spiritual traditions all over the world that always worship Vrindavan. And that's where Krishna had his childhood pastimes. That's what makes it even more so special. Lord Chaitanya spent time there. All the great masters spent time there, so we like to go there. And when we go there, we like to hear about these places. We like to hear about, what to do there, how to behave there. Like that, we're staying right at Govardhan Hill this time. And we'll just walk around Govardhan Hill every day. And then we'll just stop. And you know what you do at Govardhan? You know what I do at Govardhan Hill? I stop at this local sweet shop and I buy a bunch of sweets. And then we get some incense and we get some water from Manasa Ganga. Do you know the story of Manasa Ganga? Everybody, I'm gonna squirrel my squirrel here if you don't mind. Krishna wanted to always please the devotees. That's just what he does. Krishna loves to please the devotees. And so all the devotees wanted to go to the Ganga. Now, the Ganga doesn't flow through Braj. And so, this is what in India, this is what you do for fun with your family. You don't go to Six Flags. You go to the Ganga. You go to Haridwar or Rishikesh, right? Amitaji, is that correct? Did your parents ever take you to the Ganga when you were young? No. Okay, have them contact me. I'm going to talk to them. Yes. So in India, the big thing is you take your family to the Ganga. It could be a life, maybe in your lifetime they'll take you. But and it's almost like a carnival when you go to these places. There's food and there's songs and there's like kids playing with toys. It's got a carnival-y atmosphere. So they go to all the inhabitants of Vrindavan wanted to go to the Ganga, and Krishna said, I don't want you to leave here. Don't go to the Ganga. Well, Krishna, we want to go on pilgrimage. It's our duty to take bath in the Ganga. And Krishna said, just wait. And Krishna sat down in meditation, and he called Ganga Devi. Devi Sureshwari Bhagavati Gange Tribhuvana Taruna Taralatarange Shankara Molina. Right? And she started chanting these beautiful prayers, and Ganga Devi herself appeared. And when she saw her original master, Sri Krishna, she bowed down. Oh, my Lord, how can I serve you? He said, would you please manifest in Vrindavan, in Braj, just so my family members and my devotees do not have to leave this place? And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. She manifested this beautiful lake called Manasa Ganga, where Ganga manifested from Krishna's mind. And so I like to take the water from Manasa Ganga, and I buy some sweets and I buy some incense, and then we park it at a beautiful place at Govardhan, and we start to worship Govardhan, and we start to pour the Manasa Ganga water over the little stones. Then we offer with incense, we offer all the sweets, and then we take all those sweets and we distribute them to all the pilgrims. And that way you get to really serve all the pilgrims when you're at Govardhan.
That's beautiful. There was also Narayani asked about the story, if it's true that Govardhan Hill is sinking and why. Do you want to get into that story?
Yeah, well, Govardhan, hey, Tarun, good morning. When Govardhan first manifested on the planet, it came in the Himalayas. And there was a great sage, one of the sons of Brahma, named Pulatsya. And Pulatsya lived in Varanasi. And Varanasi is very flat. And so he wanted to go to the Himalayas and bring a mountain back to Varanasi. And now, how do you bring a mountain back? You can't. You can't lift a mountain. You can't move mountains. I hate to break it to you in the actual sense. But Pulatsya had these cities, and these sages had these cities where they can move things. So they went to the father. Now, mountains, they say, are beings. We had this whole thing on the show once, how mountains are beings. So, and they have like family members. So Govardhan had a parent, and he went to the father and said, listen, I'm here to take your son. And I've come to beg in charity your son. And the father said, no, you can't take my son, Govardhan. He's just so little, even though he was very high. He's just so little, you can't take him. He said, come on, I'm a sage. I've come begging. You've got to give to the sage. And that is like the tradition in India. Sometimes a sage would come to your house. Parents out there, imagine if a sage just knocked on your door. I'm here for your child. Look at Amita. Amita saying, yes, yes. I was also taken by a sage. No. But a sage will come. I want your son to help me. Yeah, it wouldn't make any sense right now if a man came to your door and said, give me your teenage son. But, don't worry, I'm homeless. But this would happen. You would trust these sadhus, and the sadhu would raise your son. It's hard to even fathom that. But there's so much faith in sadhus. I think, what's that we were talking about the other day, the Bihar School of Yoga?
Yeah.
In the Bihar School of Yoga, the guru is Satyananda.
Mm.
He passed away maybe 10 years ago or so. But his successor is this man who's given to the ashram as a young boy. Sometimes they can't take care of the children, or sometimes a sadhu begs a child, and he was raised in the ashram as from a childhood, just given, and he was raised by swamis. And that's how they're raised to become, acharyas or next in line. So, yeah, it's one of those things. So anyway, so a sage came and begged for Govardhan and said, Govardhan, I want your son. And finally, Govardhan said, okay, I will come with you. Father, please understand, I need to do this. I will come with you, but under the condition that wherever you put me down, that is where I will stay. So, okay, sure, of course. So with his mystic powers, he was able to lift Govardhan with his right hand. And he started to carry Govardhan all the way back to Varanasi. But when he get to Uttar Pradesh, when he got to out of the Himalayas in Uttar Pradesh, he had to answer the call of nature. So he put Govardhan down, and he came back to pick up Govardhan, and he could not lift Govardhan. He said, come on, let's go. And Govardhan said, I'm sorry, you put me down. Now, Govardhan understood this is where Krishna will appear. I will wait here for millennia for Krishna to appear here. But Pulatsya got very, very angry. How dare you? We made a deal. We made a deal. You have to come with me. So he cursed Govardhan to shrink the size of a mustard seed. Some people say a sesame seed every day. And so they say Govardhan is shrinking. Now Govardhan is not so high. I know a physicist who actually did the calculations, how high Govardhan was and how low it is right now. And they say when Govardhan leaves, like when fully becomes unmanifest, that's when Kali Yuga will really set in.
Oh, wow. I love that
Yes.
story.
Me too.
All right. Karuna has a question. She asked, how do we become a bridge Bossy?
Oh, that's a good question. A bridge Bossy means one who is born in Braj. So there's different types of bridge Bossis. One those who are born in a Bossy just means where you live. Like I'm a Canaan, New York Bossy, and you are a Hudson Bossy, right? So a bridge is like the slang of saying Braj. So if you say Braj, that means the 12 forests, including Vrindavan. So a Braj Bossy is one who lives in Braj. And so one can be born in Braj, and then you're a bridge Bossy. Now, it's not an ordinary birth, because if you think about it, the people who are born in Braj, they have been thinking about Krishna 24/7 their whole life. Hold on one second. I got an 8-year-old kid. What is up? Yeah, first eat some food. Sorry, guys. Yeah, there's banana bread and there's these little buns I made. Go get those. Okay. Or I could just tell you stories about Govardhan Hill.
All right. So you were talking about how we become bridge Bosses.
So yeah, and then also if you are living in Vrindavan and you're practicing bhakti for many years, don't eat that. You're gonna get sick. Kid likes sweets more than I like sweets, and I love sweets. Okay, you have to stop talking, Prabhu. I love you, but you can't talk anymore. Oh my God. So yeah, living in Vrindavan for many, many years and practicing bhakti, you sort of get you become a bridge Bossy of sorts yourself. It's another form of bridge Bossy. Mm-hmm. The guru, in one sense, is a bridge Bossy because they have such attachment for Krishna. And so therefore, we got to be careful around bridge Bossis for that same reason. Matter of fact, Lord Chaitanya even instructed, don't become too familiar with bridge Bossis. And someone might argue, like, why not? Because you will make material calculate. These people who grow up always hearing about Krishna, they have a special relationship with Krishna. And it's easy to make offenses or make judgments and say, well, they're not acting like devotees in this time. You got to be very, very careful. It's like, carrying a 2x4 around a china shop. You got to make sure you don't wreck anything. And so whenever we go to Vrindavan, we have all these, like, we are on our A game, not to make offenses and how to serve, etc. And I'm glad that's how I sort of came to Vrindavan too. My story is, I got to Vrindavan and immediately Damodar Swami, who like sort of showed me the Vrindavan, took me around, and he said, okay, you have to, you have to just remain in service here, or else you're not going to have a positive experience. And so one service he gave me was to walk around Vrindavan every day. And I don't know if you've ever, walked barefoot for 2 hours at 2.5 hours a day. It gets exhausting fast, but he made me make that commitment to do it every day. And it was just such a purifying thing. And another thing was to serve all the devotees prasad for lunch. Now, it's hard because at lunchtime, that's when everybody's sort of hungry, sort of like our digestion kicks in and everybody's waiting to eat. And I saw him, and he was a senior monk, and he said, I do this myself because I enjoy doing it. I take great pleasure in doing it. So I said, well, what about food? What if we run out of food? How do we eat? He goes, well, if you want, you just can fast for the rest of the day. I was like, fast for the rest of the day? Are you kidding? Can't we just put a little plate aside? He said, well, if you want to do that, you can, but it's nice just to serve everybody till they're completely satisfied. Isn't it interesting? There's always degrees of devotion. Okay, I'll skip my meal and serve out, but I do want to put a little bit aside for myself. You know what I mean? There's always like a degree of devotion we have. So I made this commitment. I'm not just, if I run out, I'm just not going to eat. And he also made me, there was a little restaurant at the temple there at that time. It's before the MVT was built. But there was a little restaurant. I said, well, if I miss, I'll just go in the restaurant. And he said, I'm only going to give you advice because you came to me and asked me for advice, but I highly recommend you don't go to the restaurant. And I said, why not? It's like this nice. He goes, because you're trying to be a monk now. And as monks, we're just dependent. And once you go into the restaurant, it's sort of a mood of enjoyment. And here, Krishna's the enjoyer. We just want to serve. Now, is the restaurant evil? No, it's not evil. But what's the tendency in a restaurant? You're talking, you're laughing, you're joking. You're not like in a very meditative mood very often. It's more of like sort of a party atmosphere. And so he just was trying to lay down a very serious standard for me, like a gold standard of how to live, especially if I'm going to be there for more than 3 days. And so between walking and serving, now you got to understand, when you're about to serve someone food, that is the most like rajasic moment of their day. They're like, give me food. So sometimes people aren't very pleasant. They're like, I want more. Give me less. And so you got to be very, how can I serve you? Can I get you more? And you got to go quickly. If you go too slow, that agitates the people eating because you serve out in a row, and you never serve one row and then the other row, because then one row is seeing all the food on everybody's plate, and that row gets agitated. You got to go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth very quickly. And all the servers, there's a science to serving out, and all the servers have to be right after another very quickly. And the people eating, they'll become very, very satisfied that way. You ever go to someone's house and you're sort of awkward and you're sort of like, can I have some more lasagna, please? And sometimes you feel a little awkward to ask for more. They say that in these Vedic serve-outs, you should never have to ask for more. It should always be put right on your plate before you can even ask. And that way you feel very welcome. And as a matter of fact, in a very cultured meal, in a holy place, etc., not only do you not have to ask, but at the end of the meal, the server comes around with folded hands and say, can I get you anything else? What else can I get you? How else can I serve you? What else do you need? And you feel like so loved and taken care of after the meal. Then they put a coin. This is in India, they would do this. They put a coin on your plate. On everybody's plate, they get a coin. Like, not only do we take great pleasure in serving you, but we're actually giving you money to come here. That's how much we value you here. It's very, very sweet. Everything is sweet about this culture. Everything is sweet about it.
It is sweet.
It is sweet.
Let's see.
Is this
Somebody asked.
show boring? Is this getting boring without Kaustubha and a guest? Am I dropping the ball today, people?
No, it's not boring.
Forgive me.
They love it.
Okay.
Is there a certain progression we need to complete before visiting Vrindavan, or is there a right time to take pilgrimage?
Is there a right time to take pilgrimage?
Are there like requirements that people should be fulfilling before they go to India?
Well, I sort of went completely green. I went to Vrindavan very green. I didn't know
Tell us
anything.
about your first time going to Vrindavan on a, tie it together.
Yeah. I just had met, I was quitting my band and going to India, and I had faith in Bhakti, and I had just met Damodar Swami in New York City, and I told him, yeah, I'm going to go to India. He goes, oh, you should come visit us. And so I was like, okay, so that got put on my radar, go to Vrindavan. It was also pre-cell phone, pre-credit cards. Like, how everybody's got a credit card, even your teenagers got a credit card. No one had a credit card. I didn't have a credit card, so you just had a little bit of cash, a traveler's check. No one uses traveler's checks anymore. There was no cell phones, no internet. There was no highways in India then also. And it was just sort of a different world. And for me, it was like extremely shocking because I never lived in an ashram. So not only is our ashrams hard in America, they're much harder even in India because there's no heat, there's no air conditioning, and there's no, you're in these sort of like prison house showers, and you're sleeping on the floor. I could sleeping on the floor, I could deal with that. But even just like the wearing of a robe, I didn't know how to wear a robe. I didn't know how to wear these brahmachari underwear. Yes, there are brahmachari underwear, people, and it's a whole thing. It's like a Tarzan strap you down, so to speak, thing. And I had to figure it all out in India, where things like all your little comforts of home are not there. And then there's like, for some reason I can overeat in America and it's not a big deal. If I overeat in India, I'd get sick immediately. And when you get sick, you get, real stomach bugs and things like that. You got to be careful what I did. Here's one that really took me out was, you can't drink, because there's in India today, there's a big problem with sanitation and sewers, etc. So you're not supposed to drink the tap water because it can get the water table can get contaminated. So have you ever taken a shower and you're just like feeling like, one day I was taking a shower. It's like I took it in the noon. It was, the morning is very cold, but in the noon, it's sort of like it's hot out anyway, so you don't mind taking a cool shower. So I was really enjoying the material world there that day, just like showering. And I just leaned my head back. It was like, like singing in the shower and like drinking like liters and liters of the water coming from that shower, singing and thinking like I'm at my mom's house, just like drinking and singing and slathering myself with soap. And then I realized, what have I just done? And that took me on a 5-day dysentery train of no return, where I literally had to sleep in the bathroom for 5 days. And I won't get into dysentery, but I do mention it in my upcoming book. But so I really knew nothing. And so if you guys feel like you don't know anything, you might be qualified. I had a strong desire. And even though I like sort of really knew nothing, I did have some deep realizations, like I don't want material life anymore. I was really convinced, like my band was doing really good and I quit it. I didn't want it. I wasn't interested in being famous. I wasn't interested in, and then Krishna, of course, starts to test you with all these things. I wrote this in my book too, because Paramananda wrote me from India. Paramananda is on the show today, but he's our guitar.
From India?
Well, he wrote me from New York because I had quit the band and it was very ambiguous. Am I going to come back? What am I doing over there? Am I going to live there forever? Am I going to ever, and at the time our band was really popular. And I think it was, there's a famous A&R person named Michael Alago. They did a documentary on him. He's the one that signed Metallica to Elektra Records, and he signed White Zombies. And basically, people he touches turn to gold. And he was interested in meeting with youth today. So I remember Paramananda writing me this letter. Hey, what are you doing? When are you coming back? You know, we got asked to go out to dinner with Michael Lago. Are you? And I was like a little shocked. And I was like, I gave up everything, but now Michael Lago might be interested in us. And so I felt like Krishna was testing me. Are you sincere about this? We all get these tests on our spiritual path. How sincere are you? And Krishna wants to see where our hearts is, because Krishna is seeing if we're qualified to leave the material world. He's trying to lure us out of the material world, but he doesn't want to lure it by force. He wants to make you choose him, because that's what love is. You know, love is when you say, okay, you know what? You do what you have to do. Go out there. And then sometimes the beloved comes back to you. And that's sort of real love. You can't coerce a person to love you. You can't shame a person into loving you. You can't, have some, what's it called? Codependent relationship and coerce them. That's not love. Holding a gun to someone's head is not love. Krishna says, you know what? Here's what the beauty of the material world has to offer. It's got fame. It's got sex. It's got romance. It's got adventure. Go for it. And it takes a special person, which is all the people I'm looking at in their faces right now, to say, you know what? Okay, I've been there, done that. And there's got to be something more. Been to the best beaches, check. Had great sex, check. Went out and partied, check. Made a lot of money, check. And with all those great things, disasters happened, check. Heart was broken, check. Became a drug addict, check. Whatever. Incarcerated, check. It's not like the pleasures of the material world come just filled with pleasure. Some of the people with the brightest fortunes and the most good, I was just telling my kids about the Lindbergh baby the other day. Like, who's the Lindbergh baby? Oh, like the most famous guy in the world got their baby stolen. You know what I mean? It's like, it's one of those things that it's not like there's just good karma and everything's perfect. The whole Bhagavatam is a story about people with great karma, isn't it? There's kings and queens and heroes, and they're all suffering. You know why? Because it's not just the plebeians of this world. Like that word, plebeian? Just not the thank you. Not just the plebeians of this world that suffer. Even the 1%. Even that 1% that are controlling the media, and that are all the big financiers that meet in Davos, Switzerland, and the Rockefellers and the Rothschilds. Guess what? They don't get a pass from suffering. You know why? Because they're embodied. And once you have a body, if you're not sattvic, you suffer tremendously. And that's why the yoga system, the very general concept of the yoga system, is it brings you to sattva because it relieves your suffering. But even when you're sattvic, there's some suffering. Why? Because you're embodied. Once you have a body, that is, you've opted in to suffer. And don't pull this, well, I never asked to be born. Oh, yes, you did. Oh, yes, you did. If you got a teenager that comes up to you and says, I never asked to be born, you just got to say, well, that's your theory. My theory is you did ask to be born, and you did ask for me. Okay. There's another theory out there. Did I answer that question?
And a sage might come and take you away.
And if you're not careful, a sage might come and take you right out of here. Always use the threat of a sage.
What about do you have a time to tell us about your favorite temple in Vrindavan and why?
Well, of course, me and Kaustubha love Krishna Balaram temple. That's Prabhupada's temple. It is magnificent. I mean, there's so many cool temples in Vrindavan. But at the same time, you don't even have to go. The best deity worship is there. It's beautiful. The kirtan there is out of control. It's a very beautiful to look at temple. It's where I got initiated in that temple. So my best memories of my life, it's such a game changer just to step in that temple. And nowadays you can just go online and go to their darshans online. I was just listening to kirtan from the temple this morning. but I also love different temples, in the villages. Some of them are popular, like Bunky Bihari. That is always like a place of transcendental chaos.
So fun there.
That they say the deity, if you look at him too long, will jump off the altar. So they have very quick darsans where they open the curtain and close the curtain, open the curtain and close the curtain, because he is so merciful, he will dive. He's like the original stage diver for you. And there's Radha Raman, which there's always sweet kirtan going on at Radha Raman. Radha Raman was the Shalagram Shila that was manifested into Krishna. So he's actually a stone from the Gandaki River in Nepal. And because the great devotee, Gopal Bhatt Goswami, wanted to worship the form of Krishna and not just worship the Shalagram, the stone, that due to his strong desire, it manifested one day into this beautiful Shalagram figure of Krishna. Amazing temple, right? Then there's the temple of Radha Gokulananda, where they keep Lord Chaitanya's Govardhan Shila that has Lord Chaitanya's thumbprint in it, that was given to him. It was given to Raghunath Das Goswami, my namesake, and that deity is there. And there's a great Garuda Govinda temple. I mean, then some of these temples are like tiny, you've never even heard of. Garuda Govinda temple is where there's this deity of Vishnu riding Garuda wearing a dhoti, and then you lift up the dhoti and you see it's actually, because they say that Vishnu is Krishna, and he's riding on the shoulders of one of the cowherd boys. So in the manifestation of Krishna and the cowherd boys, it's like Govinda is now riding a cowherd, and in the manifestation of Krishna, he's riding the cowherd boys. In the manifestation of Vishnu, he's riding a transcendental eagle. Then I love going to Govardhan. There's so many beautiful temples at Govardhan. There's so many beautiful temples at Radhakund. Chakaleshwar Mahadev, there's some great Shiva temples. Chakaleshwar Mahadev, where Sanatan Goswami lived, that's right at Govardhan Hill. They said that Lord Shiva appeared because there was too many mosquitoes there. And Sanatan Goswami says, I can't live. It's ruining my meditation. I'm always getting attacked by mosquitoes. So he started to move. He goes, I'm just going to wander somewhere else. And Lord Shiva personally manifested to him. And he said, do not leave here. We appreciate you staying here so much. I am Pashupatinath. I'm the Lord of all the animals. He said, I will make sure the mosquitoes never bother you again. And to this day, there's no mosquitoes at Chakaleshwar. And so Chakratirtha, these are all special places. Haridev Mandir, that's the temple you're supposed to visit before you circumambulate Govardhan. All the deities, when they were being taken from Vrindavan and hidden because the Mughal invaders were coming, they set up separate temples at Radhakund. So you can go to Radha Govinda, Radha Mada Mohan, Radha Damodar. They have all their temples at Radhakund as well. That's very special. Then I love Gopeshwar Mahadev. That is where Shiva, I told that story the other day, where Shiva dresses like a gopi. And every day he comes out in these beautiful gopi outfits. That's a great temple. Then there is Kundeshwara. That is the guard of the Kund, of Radhakund. And so you can go there before you go on Prikam around Radhakund. You see Kundeshwar Mahadev and get the blessings to enter. We're always going in that mood with blessings. Man, I feel like I didn't say anything today. What else we got?
Do you want one more question?
I'll take one more if it's okay. Anybody getting bored yet? I know you were expecting Malati. You got the booby prize today. Please forgive me.
What was your most memorable experience in Vrindavan, and why?
You know, Vrindavan is this place where those transcendental memories, they happen every time you go. It's hard to like pick one time because the entire time you're there is like a transcendental experience. No one has to preach to me to explain the glories of Vrindavan. I feel like it's been like proven to me. You know what I mean? I don't have to read it in a book in one sense. I've had this like experience, like it's a special place and it affects me deeply, and it continues. It's continuing. If you go there with the right mood, nothing will be ordinary. It will all be extraordinary. And I think you guys that have went with me, we know this. You know what I mean? It's never like, okay, I'm going to Rome. I'm going to the Antilles, the Dutch Antilles. I'm going to El Paso. It's not like El Paso. I'm nothing against the Dutch Antilles or Rome or anything like that, but it's a different internal feeling you get because you're surrounded by sacred people in a sacred place, in a sacred temple, in a sacred rivers, you know, and people, you know, and people very, very focused. And there's something about being around that buzzing energy that lifts you right out of your body. And what it does do, it shows you the real you versus the false you that you've been projecting outward that has never fulfilled you. It gives you some real darshan of who you are. I think the sweetest thing is meeting people who are living the life while you're in Vrindavan. And those are like the most life-changing experiences. And I write a lot about it in my book that's coming out. And, you know, the sadhus that sometimes would take me in and take care of me and feed me in my Hari Bhajan story. And, but all the, just the random people you meet, just doing their regular service in Vrindavan, you got to find those people, sit with them, chant next to them, listen to them, ask them questions, and it starts to raise your consciousness. And whether it's Yogananda, right, or Radhanath Swami, right, you go to these places and you get a taste and you go, how can I ever leave this place? How am I supposed to ever leave this place? And that should be our mood when we have to leave. And then we always want to leave with that eagerness. We should always leave with that eagerness. I have to get back here. I have to somehow figure out how to get back here. Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. I'm going to miss everybody tomorrow. Say some prayers for me that I can enter. And thank God for Krishna. I can't hear the music at all, Mara. This would never happen to Kaustubha. He's got that working.
Always works when Kaustubha plays it.
There we go. Now I can end the show. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. We're going to get Malati back. We're even going to get Harley Flanagan back on the show. Some of you know Harley Flanagan. Next time you hear from me, Krishna willing, Radharani willing, it will be live from Govardhan Hill. And we're hoping that happens Wednesday. And I got to get really focused because I never believe I'm in the holy dham until I'm there. Once I start getting presumptuous, Krishna backs off. You think you're deserving. We have to feel like I'm not deserving. I'm just getting some special mercy. And truthfully, it's just a better way to look at the world. Presumptuous, it never works. It never makes me feel better. Entitlement never makes me feel better. Entitlement makes me very, very bitter. Why aren't things the way I want them all the time? But gratitude, that's the flip side. All right. Let's say some prayers that we get in. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Yamuna Maya ki jai. Thank you to the Wisdom of the Sages family.